I've had quite a few comments from the last video where I briefly mentioned a debilitating encounter with anxiety and the effects that it had on me. And people have been wanting to know a little bit more about the experience and what I went through. I am not a medical practitioner. I have no certification to give information on any kind of therapies, and so anything I say you can believe or not believe, accept as true or not true. We're all really trying to come up with a way of talking about the same thing in a very understandable form, but it's not always easy. I'm speaking purely from my own personal experiences and nothing else. So, if we accept that our mind is our memories of past experiences which are filed away in our brain, and our thinking, we ask questions and we search our memories for answers to those questions. And the answers we get back, which are based on our personal experiences in life and our learning and our skills that we've developed, gives us the answers to the questions that we're asking. Our brain, excuse me, is much like any other organ in the body, this miraculous cellular engineering full of organs and immune systems, and we cut ourselves and our body repairs itself. And if we go to hospital with a complaint, say liver failure or kidney failures, we have treatments. However, what we call our mind, our mental health, relates purely to our brain, and we can't see inside that, obviously. So we come up with thinking of what causes the things that affect us so terribly from time to time, where we call mental illness, which is an illness. We call it mental illness, but it's an illness. And what is it? What is it as an illness? Anxiety, which is what I went through, is overthinking. We get into, especially creative people, a state of imagination where we come up with images and scenarios and stories, a lot of catastrophizing of what could go wrong. And anxiety is imagining what could go wrong in the future. And a part of our minds, very deep down, a part of our brain can't distinguish between what is true and what is not true. So we tend to think of our dreams as being true, our thinking as being true. And when that gets a little bit out of control, then it becomes an illness. We all have anxiety, a little bit of anxiety. It's good for us, it keeps us safe. The amygdala in our brain, that looks for danger, senses danger. And that can activate the hardwired, built-in fight, flight or freeze mechanism. But when we over-catastrophize and we start believing that what we're thinking is true and that bad things might happen, and that gets out of hand and we become unwell, then there's an extra symptom, and the one symptom that I had, which was shaking. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those really old black and white videos of somebody from the First World War with shell shock. Wasn't quite as bad as that, but whenever I tried to take on any kind of simple task around the home, my hands would shake so much that I couldn't perform the task. And that was not me, it's not who I am. I even had to have a neighbour come round and fit a new dimmer switch for the lighting because I just couldn't get the wires in the holes or hold the screwdriver steady enough to tighten the wires up. It was bad. It was the pain in here was visceral. And that alone is enough for you to tell you that something, your brain is telling you that something's not right. Normally, a little bit of anxiety, we deal with the threat or whatever the issue is, and things settle down again very quickly. Perfectly normal. when it's out of control and we start to get these extra physical symptoms and the pain in the brain, then we need to seek help from somewhere else. And I went to the doctors. I got a course of antidepressants. They take at least a month to start working, and in that month the symptoms can be worse. After that, the mood sort of goes up a little, and the brain activity. Is it electrical, the electrical wiring, electrical currents in the mind? I don't know. I mean, maybe this can be measured with medical equipment. I don't have anything like that. So all I'm saying is that, you must get some help. I took antidepressants, and after about 2 months, things started to feel better. I started to feel a little better. But in that time, I also went and sought some therapy. And you can get some free therapy on the NHS, but if you've tried that, you can't do any more for 3 months. And I tried, because I wouldn't been feeling well from October in 2025 right through until January, February of 2026. And then we came on the boat and we had this life-threatening, potentially, certainly scary experience. Things that don't usually bother me when I'm on a boat, but obviously it was the final trigger, to start an episode where I needed to seek help. So I got some EDMR therapy, which is eye detection movement. You can look it up. As invented by somebody, not invented, but observed by the lady who built the therapy, by how she noticed that when she was really thinking about something troublesome, her eye moved rapidly. And so part of the therapy is to detect the movement while asking questions and releasing memories that are stored in the mind. So these can be, when we through daily life, we just store memories naturally. We sleep, those memories get processed into long-term memory. We keep some in short-term memory. We memorize skills, and we develop as people and become useful for doing all kinds of things. Sometimes in life can be harsh. There's any amount of hell out there, and sometimes we bump into it through no fault of our own. Even responsible people, things happen to. And traumatic experiences, the mind doesn't always process them and commit them to memory very well. And those past experiences can stay with us and affect our behavior. When we ask questions, we get the wrong answers and we respond in the wrong way. And so we behave out of character sometimes. And even looking at sort of how people are brought up, we have a lot of crime, a lot of thieves around, there are con artists everywhere. You have to have your wits about you in life, just to sort of, get through and put food on the table, keep the bank accounts in positive levels, and enjoy life as much as we possibly can. Do things that we enjoy. We can find things that motivate us. We sometimes, when dealing with things that we don't like, we find ways to distract ourselves, but that doesn't solve the problem. And life keeps pumping away, and it pumps and it pumps and it pumps until whatever has been suppressed in the mind gets released. And that's what happened to me. Something that I'd been keeping down, fears, worries, bad thoughts, negative thinking, all gradually built up. Sometimes you can deal with these things by getting angry. It's a good way to release frustrations and deal with trauma. But by getting angry, depends how angry you get, but sometimes you can get a brush with the law. If you break the law, you're going to get a criminal record, and that has happened to me. So I'm not sort of recommending get angry all of the time, but if you do get angry, know when to walk away. Just pause when you start to feel angry and just observe the thoughts that are coming up and say, well, do I need to respond to those thoughts in the ways I've responded to them in the past? And perhaps there's a better way. This is change and personal development. You can go out and you can find any number of people who have personal development courses and can offer all kinds of wonderful things that make your life better and bring lots of money to you. Bullshit. Oops, excuse me. Hard work, self-improvement, learning new skills. That brings personal wealth. So I had some EDMR therapy, and what I found was memories from times in my mid-20s when I lived in the Republic of Ireland. It was the height of the IRA, the Troubles as they were called. Bombs were going off in the United Kingdom, in England. People were getting killed in Belfast. I lived in Dublin at the time, and that was a peaceful place. But there was something underneath, an undercurrent, that was something was not quite right. And that gradually seeps into you, affects you. You get a feeling. We can't, as people, read other people's minds. We can't know what other people are thinking. Our minds, our brains sometimes think that we do know what other people are thinking because, I don't know, we're not dogs, but dogs can sense our moods, and we take what we can sense in other people by their facial expressions, how they sit, moves that they make, and we can sort of think we're reading what they're thinking, but we're not. We're just sort of sensing their moods that they're in. And you don't really know what's caused a person to be angry. They could be having serious trouble in their lives. Who knows? They could be going through marriage difficulties. They could be unwell. You find a lot of grumpy older people. They're grumpy because their bodies don't work like they used to. So just pause for a moment and just think, and just ask the question: is there a better way to respond to this rather than getting angry or just lashing out? So I got the therapy, and the questions that were asked released some very old memories from the time I spent in Ireland, things that happened. I was in a pub one night, and I just went to the toilet. We had friends who were talking very loudly about the black taxi cabs being a fundraising for the IRA in Belfast. And I went into the toilets, and someone came in after me. I'll never forget the look in his eyes. I looked into this guy's eyes, and they were just two black holes. And he just opened his sort of jacket pocket and showed me the gun that he was carrying, and just said to me, if you don't tell your friends to shut up, I'm going to come outside when you leave and kneecap you all. Okay, maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. We don't always remember things in the way that we think are real. We sometimes add a little dramatic license because it makes a good story. I learned to fly a hang glider in Ireland without being trained by anybody. I just went up the Sugarloaf Mountain with this kite and practiced a few gentle runs down slopes to take off and get into the prone flying position so that I could go further. And one day I was practicing the takeoff, and I got a little gust of wind, and the kite took off, and it didn't land where it should do. It just kept on going, and before I knew it, I'd hit some warm air rising, and I was a good 500-600 feet up in the air. But I'd not practiced how to turn the kite left or right. So I'm flying the hang glider in a straight line, and I had my dog, a golden retriever, with me. Was running down the hills off the Sugarloaf Mountain, following me in the kite. And as I got further and further, I was approaching some high power lines, and I was looking at these power lines getting closer, and thinking, oh God, I could hit these. So you pull the bar in, which lowers the load of the kite and makes you fly lower. And I went through between two pylons underneath the high power lines and landed in a big field. And about 10 minutes later, my dog turned up, having crossed lots of streams, all covered in mud and panting heavily, having run for about half an hour constantly after me. A funny story, but there's a lot of fear there, which I pushed down, and carried on learning to fly a kite. And then one day I was up flying somewhere in the Wicklow Mountains, and I just froze with fear for no reason at all, and did the same thing, pulled the bar in to lower the height, to lose height flying down. And I was approaching a farmhouse and the wing of the kite clipped the chimney on top of the farmhouse, spun the kite, and I landed in the farm's back garden in this sort of rhododendron bush. And this really old, all bent over old Irish farmer came out, and he pulled out a packet of Capstan full strength cigarettes, and he looked at me and said, well now, you'll be wanting a smoke, won't you, before you pack up and leave? I said, I did smoke at that time. Yeah, I'll join you in a cigarette. Well, those are the memories that I was carrying with me. They're the ones that were coming up. And as you release them, and then you talk them over with a therapist who's qualified, and they give you an alternative way of thinking about how you remembered them, the negative context in which you processed those memories and remembered them, and stored them away, but in a negative process, and we're never really complete with them. We dream and we feel, I sometimes think dreams are a way of completing the day's memories, and being done with them and settled with them and stored in long-term memory. But is that true or not? I don't know. Go out and do some more research and see if anybody else comes up with the same idea, but said in a different way. So between the middle of February, when the anxiety attack really hit me, and if things that used to give me pleasure, like going out for a long walk, I could maybe walk half a mile, it would make me feel even worse. It was like the light in my head was just cranked up to incredible brightness. It was like the outside of my head, the inside of my head was on the outside, and I couldn't stop the thoughts, couldn't quieten my mind, the chattering monkeys. The pain was visceral, and all I could do was sit, and I couldn't read any social media, I couldn't maybe watch YouTube. Everything was sort of being interpreted, all the information coming into my brain was being interpreted as negative. All of the thumbnails you see on YouTube catastrophizing, just looking at those, I couldn't have anything to do with it. So I just turned off all electronic communications, shut everything down, and sat. I think the only thing I could watch was like on TV while I sat on the sofa. Like I couldn't read for more than a minute. My eyes would start to water. Water would start running out of my eyes if I just started to read a book, something that normally gives me great pleasure. We all love stories. We love stories. We love going to see movies. We love reading books. It's wonderful. I wish I could write stories. Maybe I can. Maybe it's just my mind, my processed memories telling me that I can't write. Something to think about. You know, if I'm waffling on, you just put in the comment that you're talking a load of BS. So, things started to improve a little. Cutting off all the social media, that helped enormously. I guess the antidepressants, which are also for anxiety, started to kick in, and things started to improve a little bit, but I was still shaking if I tried to do anything, and I couldn't really do anything physical, but I just tried to push myself. I wasn't at the point of being depressed, you know. I mean, I've heard some people, when they're seriously depressed, they can't even get out of bed. It wasn't like that. There was part of me that was still functioning perfectly. I could get up in the morning, I would shave, not at the moment. I'm on the boat, and I tend to grow beards when I'm on the boat. And part of me was functioning properly, but anything, I'm not sure how to categorize this. Anything that was entertaining or productive or, you know, just doing general household tasks like loading the dishwasher, cooking. I couldn't cook. I couldn't remember how long to cook things for. Or it wasn't that I couldn't remember, it was that the noise, which was not in, you know, the thoughts weren't clear thoughts. It wasn't like asking myself a question and listening to what came back out of my processed mind, my memories, as a clear answer, and then acting upon that. It was just below that, something underneath. They're like thoughts that are quiet. You know, they're so far down in our subconscious that we can't hear them as like spoken words, but they're feelings. You know, thoughts become feelings. Feelings affect how we behave. You know, and these thoughts were very quiet. You couldn't hear them in your mind. It's why meditation, I found breathing exercises, you know, to breathe diaphragmatically, you know, and count. And as you count, picture the numbers in your head. And I found that a very good way to go to sleep, because I wasn't sleeping very well. And when I did go to sleep, I would wake up with hot sweats and shaking, and with really, really strange thoughts. All part of the condition of anxiety. And I don't like to call it mentally unwell or mental ill health. It is a condition. It is ill health, just the way any other organ in the body can become unhealthy. Eating the right foods is a good way to help keep the body healthy. Exercise is a good way to keep the body and mind healthy. So there are lots of things we have to do to keep life working well, you know, for our lives to work well. But when you are unwell, when your mind is unwell, it's very difficult to do anything else. So I would sit and I would watch. I could watch Homes Under the Hammer and one other program for some reason, which was some sort of distraction from how I was feeling. And that was about it. And I was like that from the middle of February to around about the middle of May. And I thought I was done. I really did, and that I would never recover from it. And that's another negative thought that is processed. It gets into a loop, the way a depressive thought loop just takes your mind and spirals down in negative thoughts. In anxiety, your mind sort of spirals up, and you get very agitated, very sort of hyper, tense. But I think the treatment, both from the antidepressants and certainly from the EMDR therapy I had over that period, gradually I was able to push myself just to go out and walk for as far as I possibly could every day, to set myself just some small goals and each day to reach that goal. I didn't give up. Never give up. Your life is worth more than that. It's a miracle. Absolute miracle. You're a miracle of cellular engineering. It's just taken millennia for your bodies to get to this, and for our minds to develop. Look at the things we've done as human beings. Electricity, what an invention. You know, it drives everything, you know, including our brain. And we're here now in this moment, at this time of human development, in the development of the earth, of the world, with all these amazing inventions that have brought us comfort and made our lives so much easier, medical interventions that still has a long way to go for treatments, but we get treatment for so many conditions that used to kill us. And this body is a miracle of cellular engineering that can repair itself. And when it can't repair itself, we have our medical systems that can help. And those are improving exponentially. One day you'll live for many, 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 many more years, and your life is worth more than you think. It's a miracle you're here. Keep that thought in your mind, in your brain. I am a miracle I'm a walking miracle, and I'm worth more than thinking about taking my own life, if that's how you really feel. That is just negative thinking. It's not you, it's just your thoughts, and you can change those. And you can change them by therapy and by going to see your local practitioner, which I recommend you do. This, what I'm saying now, is just, as I said, my personal experiences of how I recovered from what was a debilitating condition. And I'm back. I wouldn't say back 100%, but I'm 95 to 98% back doing practical things, fixing things, enjoying life, going out walking again, reading, back making videos. It's a miracle, and you're a miracle. And don't ever forget that. Live your life. If you're unhappy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling negative, or if you're the other way, you're over anxious, just seek help. Go and try something, anything, and set yourself just little goals that you want to achieve every day, and have that goal get a little bit bigger each and every day. And gradually, each little step you take, when you think you can't take another step in life, you will get better, and you will improve, and you will get your normal, natural, happy self, that natural, happy state where you feel okay. You're okay. You are okay, and you feel okay. And that will come back to you. Don't ever give up. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on yourself. And if you see someone struggling, show them a little kindness, and be kind to yourself. Help other people. You'd be surprised how good you feel just from doing some random little act of kindness for another person in a completely unselfish way. Because a lot of other people are suffering and just need a little help, and you'll be surprised how just a little bit of kindness shown to someone else can make them feel better and make you feel better. And I think for now, that's all I've got to say on the subject of anxiety. I hope anything or something I've said was a little helpful. If not, thank you for staying to the end, for watching the video, and please let me know what you think. And if you disagree with what I've said, let me know you disagree. I don't expect you to agree. I don't care if you disagree. I care about you, but I don't care if you disagree with me. It won't upset me. See you later.